Hi everyone, welcome to Soul Therapy. My name is Kristen and I'm an alternative healing practitioner and holistic life coach. Here at Soul Therapy, we give you tips to help you through your awakening process, as well as interviews with those who are contributing to the awakening of the planet. If this is something you're interested in, then stay tuned because today we're going to talk about the shadow side of the empath. So stay tuned. In my video entitled, How to Know If You're an Empath, 15 Signs You Might Be Empathic, I seem to be saying that empaths were these really sweet creatures who just love animals and children and are really amazing people. And all that's true, there's a shadow side to the empath. And if you have an empath in your life, you're aware of this shadow side all too well. So I'm here to offer you some things you can look out for if you have an empathic friend, family member, or partner so that you can better understand the person. Also, if you happen to be an empath, I want you to know you're not alone because we all feel some of these things or all of these things to a certain degree. One of the things that really stinks about being an empath, and I consider to be a shadow aspect, is that since you're so sensitive and you feel other people's energy incredibly, a lot of times you don't know if it's yours or it belongs to somebody else. So for example, say you're feeling resentment or any emotion that you can think of that's not really positive to feel, especially in a group of people, you may think that that's coming from you and not understand, why am I feeling so anxious right now? Or why am I feeling so sad right now? And you might not equate the fact that it's belonging to the person standing next to you or across the room. And therefore, you kind of judge yourself or go into a state of confusion long term as to why you might be feeling this way and really trying to make sense out of it and pin it on yourself when it never belonged to you in the first place. So have you ever had a friend who's really sensitive and they really always get how you feel? They can really tune in to what you're going through and be there for you. But can you notice that sometimes you're not going through anything, you're not feeling anything, and they're always like, what's the matter? What's wrong? They always think they know when something's wrong. This is a huge problem with empaths. We are always feeling. Sometimes we have our own feelings. Sometimes we feel your feelings. Sometimes we feel the feelings of the collective or the dog or the plant. Honestly, we feel energy and we really have absolutely no idea where it's coming from unless we're trained. And most empaths don't even know that they're empaths. So I'd say that the shadow aspect of the empath is that they always think they know what's wrong and they're always trying to talk about it. They're always trying to comfort you or to make you feel better. And it can get pretty annoying sometimes. What I would suggest is if you have a friend, family member, or partner that does this, just sit them down, look them in the eye and say sternly, but with love, honestly, nothing's wrong. I know you feel like something might be wrong with me right now, but it's not me. If you are the empath and you feel as if someone is hurting or someone needs your help and they're not asking for that, give them the space to ask you for help. Not everybody wants their pain to be addressed. Some people just want to be upset in their own private time, and when they're ready, they know exactly who to come to for help. The next shadow aspect that I want to introduce is the fact that we are always expressing ourselves. People get so annoyed. We know, we can feel it. We know you're annoyed with us. We know we express ourselves too much. Some empaths have even got to the point where they've just shut down. They've stopped talking. They've stopped expressing themselves because it creates so much separation between themselves and the people that they care about. We just want to have regular friendships like anybody else, but because we're always talking about our feelings, we're always analyzing everything, we're always looking deeply into why the energy feels the way it does around us, that a lot of the times we're looking for a connection that really just isn't there. And that can be really irritating and annoying for someone who does not understand the empath. So if you know someone who's very sensitive, that's always communicating their thoughts and feelings with you, I would say to them in a fun and joking manner, hey, lighten up. Let's just have a good time right now. We'll talk about that later. Let them know that you understand who they are and that they are that way, but that right now you just want to have fun with them. So another shadow aspect of the empathic person in your life is that we cry a lot. We cry at commercials and movies. We cry when we're happy. We cry when we're sad. We cry when I cry about everything as an empath. That's how I express my emotion. It's so easy to touch my heart, to make me proud, to make me angry. And that's what makes me cry. And if I hold back the tears, it's not going to be pretty, especially if I'm angry and I hold back my tears. It's going to be all kinds of. If you have an empathic family member, friend, or partner, just hand them a tissue, because it is what it is. It's going to be what it is. And that's just the way that we release that energy that we're building up inside of us. It's sleeping and crying. For me, other empaths might get rid of that energy by running or some other way that they exert energy. But for me, it's I release through crying, and every empath I know is the same way. If you are an empath and you hate this about yourself, just get used to it, because that's just the way that it is. I'm sure there's ways that we can work with you in like hypnotherapy to help you have a different reaction. But honestly, this is who you are. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And the more you embrace it and love it, the more others will too. Another dark side or shadow aspect of the empath that you may have found or that you may possess is that we get incredibly attached or emotionally attached to things or people or objects, just anything really. If you can assign an emotional connection to something, then you can form an attachment to that. I actually began growing out of this in high school. I used to collect things, like I had a Kit Kat. I would collect the wrapper, keep the wrapper, and I had like this cork board, and I would pin all my stuff next to it, and it was like this collage of memorabilia or like whatever. I was very eclectic in that sense. But I have met people who form these attachments to people, and it's very difficult for an attached empath to walk away from someone that they care about, even if that person is toxic to them, or even if that person does not feel that same connection or attachment to them. This can turn the empath into a very sad, depressed person, maybe isolated, housebound kind of person who really just doesn't want to form personal relationships with other people because of the fear of this connection that they innately connect with other people and are not receiving that connection back. That can be extremely painful for a person whose entire being is made to connect with people, places, things, whatever. I would say if you have a friend, family member, or partner, or just an acquaintance, someone that you know who you feel is forming an attachment to you or someone else that might be an empath, a suggestion would be to be very clear with them in a loving, kind, and respectful way that you do not share their affection, or you do not feel like you share a connection with them, and apologize and cut that situation off, immediately. Do not give them any reason to think that there really is still a connection there. It might be painful for them, but really it's up to you, empath. I'm speaking to you. If you are the person who feels like a super connection with everyone or with specific people in your life that, you just feel a connection with, and you feel that they are not reciprocating, they don't actually have that connection with you, or they're ghosting you, I would suggest that moving forward, you try to work with yourself either through journaling or with a therapist to find healthier ways or healthier things to provide that connection to you. You can change that connection with other people to a connection with yourself, or it's a connection with something healthy like exercising, journaling, self-help. You can develop a connection with anything that you want, and you can make it whatever you want when it's not a person. Sometimes when we put that on other people, it makes them very uncomfortable, and they don't understand that that's just who we are. And so that could really go in a negative way for you. So I would just suggest that you work with a therapist or work on your own to find a more healthier connection or place to get your connection. So let's talk about those empaths that love deep conversation. I mean, anytime you sit down and talk to them, they really want to get deep. They want to talk about things of substance. They're really not interested in entertainment news, or even the news for that matter. They want to talk about global warming. They want to talk about cleaning the oceans. They want to talk about what they've learned or where they've been or people they've met or foods that they've tasted. They're really, really interested in talking about the real things going on in life. They're so uninterested in shallow, mundane conversations, gossip, stuff like this. If you're not an empath and you just want to have a nice, fun, lighthearted conversation about a party you went to or what Beyonce and Jay-Z are doing, an empath just has no interest in that conversation. And for the empath, this is actually not a shadow aspect. We love this about ourselves. what we don't like and what creates it to be a shadow aspect is that majority of people do not want to have deep conversations every time they sit down with you. They just want to shoot the shit. They don't really want to talk about really serious topics like how they feel. You know, they can't really find people to connect with, to have these conversations that really hit them in the heart or really make them feel fulfilled. So we end up actually having mundane conversations that are just incredibly boring to us or self-isolating because there's nobody to talk to. If you're talking to somebody who's an empath or you suspect might be one, then my suggestion would be if they start to really go deep into the conversation, just gently, respectfully, and kindly let them know that that's not anything you're in the mood to talk about right now. You really need to have a conversation that's more lighthearted. Empaths will connect more when you tell them that you need something. They'll be able to give it to you out of the space of you needing it. So if you say, right now, I'm really not in the mood to talk about anything serious, I really need some lighthearted conversation, an empath will turn around and give you a wonderful, lighthearted conversation. We would like to make our company a place for you to be comfortable. And if that's what makes you comfortable, then we're willing to do it wholeheartedly. If you are an empath and you notice that you continue to have deep conversations with people who are really not interested, you have a hard time finding people who connect with you on that level to have those kind of conversations with you, I would suggest possibly looking into meetup.com or other places where you can find like-minded people to associate with. You obviously don't want to get rid of the friends that you have. You love them and you appreciate them for their differences. But if you can balance it out between speaking with your intellectual crowd and really getting that experience out of your day or your week, then you're more available to be lighthearted and not so serious with the people who really prefer you to be a little less deep. If you saw my previous video on whether or not you might be an empath, I mentioned as one of the 15 signs that empaths are prone to addictive behaviors. This is a huge shadow aspect of the empathic person. Because we are always so emotional and we always feel things so deeply, we do tend to find things to try to escape. A lot of us have some healthy things that we do, and we don't even know that we're doing it in order to escape the overwhelming amount of energy that we feel. But if it's an addictive behavior that's harmful to you, obviously that is part of the shadow aspect of being an empathic person. So many times you will find that most alcoholics or drug users, gamblers, are actually empathic people. If you know someone who is empathic and using a substance or something that's not very beneficial to themselves or others as a coping mechanism to whittle down the pain or the overwhelmment of the emotions that they're feeling, I would suggest that you suggest to them an alternative that they can use to help them cope. So as a hypnotherapist, I would bring a person into hypnosis, change the initial behavior, put something in its place, and voila, you have a healthy behavior instead of a negative behavior. But you can also do this with yourself, or you can do this for somebody else. And if you are an empath who is using something like drugs, alcohol, or sex to make yourself feel better when you are feeling overwhelmed with emotion, I would suggest finding something else that you really enjoy. A lot of times for empathic people, that can be artistic things or things that keep them busy, like hiking, jogging. Find something else that you really enjoy doing and try to transition from doing the unhealthy behavior to doing the now new behavior, because the only reason that you are doing that behavior is as a coping mechanism. So if you can replace it with something else, you should be good to go. Another shadow aspect of being an empath or the empath themselves is that we are really highly susceptible to anxiety and depression. As you can imagine, with the fact that we feel everything incredibly intensely, and this is emotions, but mostly energy, a lot of the times we don't know where that energy is coming from. So imagine spontaneously out of nowhere, you begin to feel depressed. You're depressed all the time and you don't know why. Maybe there's somebody in your home who's actually experiencing depression and not talking about it. And you don't know that. So you feel this sense of depression a lot. And you're like, why do I feel depressed? And you naturally start trying to think of things going on in your life that could be making you this sad or making you feel this disconnected. And for an empath, that would cause depression is not finding a connection with another person. That's something we need very much. But if that depression does not belong to you, you can still feel like you have it. Same with anxiety. With everything going on in the world right now, especially with the COVID-19, people are starting to feel very confused with all of the riots going on and everything, and a lot of anxiety. And empaths all over the globe are feeling that. And although they may have their own, others might not. Others might not feel as affected by it personally. They might feel happy that there's a change going on in the world since they are people who like to fight for the underdog. Whatever your perception of it is, the empath is feeling that overall global intensity of feeling of confusion and anxiety and resentment and lots of other emotions. And so they might assign that to themselves and think that they actually are experiencing anxiety or depression. And they're really not. They're experiencing everybody else's feelings. But isn't it the same thing for an empath? If we're experiencing it ourselves because of circumstances happening in our own lives, or we're experiencing it because somebody else in our lives or the collective is feeding that into our zone of energy, then it's ours, period. We are actually the ones feeling the emotion. So a lot of times empaths suffer from this. And I would suggest if you have a friend, family member, or partner who's experiencing depression or anxiety, the best thing that you can do for them is sit by them, hold their hand, let them know that you're there for them and they can talk to you about anything. Let them know that they're not crazy and that you are there to help them or support them in any way that they need. If you are an empath who's experiencing this, it's very important that you understand that 9 times out of 10, not coming from you, and therefore you can get over it a lot more easily than someone who's suffering from clinical depression or anxiety. I would suggest journaling, really writing down your thoughts and finding out what belongs to you and what doesn't, what you feel to be truth and what isn't. Doing meditation is also a really great trick if you start off your day without picking up your phone first and just meditate, sit quietly and connect with yourself and your higher self to really establish a baseline for the day. Your day will be a lot better. You can also do things like taking baths, drinking hot cups of tea, or exercising to help you alleviate the pain. If that still doesn't go away, I would suggest talking to a doctor and letting them know what kind of feelings that you're having. It could be as simple as getting a prescription for marijuana use, which could also help lift your spirits or redirect your thoughts and not be so focused on the anxiety or depressive thoughts that you're having that are causing the anxiety or depression. Or they can prescribe you medication for a short period of time. But this is for empaths, I really try to warn against medication because it does block your superpower. Even though it doesn't feel like it is, it really is one of the 6 senses. It's clairsentience, and that is being able to feel energy. And who would want to block such a wonderful gift? That's like cutting your nose off because you don't like certain smells. Your clairsentience or your empathy is your ability to sense out in the world through energy, and that's a beautiful thing. So try not to go on medication unless you know that you do have something serious going on like major depression or anxiety, that it would probably be best for you for a short period of time to go on medication, and you can discuss that with your doctor, your therapist, or your healing practitioner. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you share it with others that you think can benefit from it. As usual, if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can reach me on my email at kristen@soultherapytct.com, or you can visit my website, check out my services and my blog at www.soultherapytct.com. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified the next time I release a video. And don't forget to send out love into the collective, always from your heart and with good intentions.